So coming over into standing. I've just unmuted everyone. If it gets noisy, I'll mute you again. But I thought we'll see how we get on, because I think it's quite nice to be able to talk. Down the speakers. Yes. Very loud, isn't it? That was Isabella. Okay, so coming into standing, let's start with this one. Yeah. Just very easy, swinging your arms. Let your feet come along, let your pelvis come along. I just have to come a little bit nearer and have a look at you. Yes, we're all doing that, very nice. Carry on. So just feel in this movement how the whole of your body is coming along with the movement. And then we're going to think about how could we do this but not move from the waist down. So settle yourself down so your feet are hip width apart and parallel. And just take your hands onto your pelvis for a moment. And then from there, slide your hands up onto your low ribs. So that same place again, but this time your thumb is going round towards the back. And then what I'd like you to do is try to turn here, but not move the pelvis. Yeah? Can we turn a little bit? Again, I'm going to come and have a closer and have a little look. Very nice. Yes. Anything. Right there. Yeah. On Isabella. So yeah. So keeping the pelvis steady, moving from the waist up, and then try the same thing, but with the hands on the shoulders. So again, you're trying not to move below the waist. And then you can try the same thing with your fingers on the crown of your head. And again, just see how it feels to be turning, but only from the waist up. And then let that go and come back to the first one where we're letting everything come along. So this movement feels much, maybe more natural. We're letting the whole of the body come along. Probably feels a bit more enjoyable. Yeah, you can let your arms slap onto your body. And then we're going to come to now working into each arm, but what I would like you to do as you're doing this is so we're going to be circling one arm, but look, if you look at me, I'm letting my pelvis come along to help this movement, yeah? So if we try and keep the pelvis rigid and do this, it can really wrench the shoulders. So as you're circling your arm, and go one direction and then the other, but let your pelvis move. So that circling movement of your arm, and I'm just coming to have a look, that circling movement of your arm is involving the whole of your body. That's it. And so Panna, particularly if you're feeling tight in the shoulders, just make sure that you're not, that's it, good. You're not wrenching your shoulder. And then come on and do the same thing on the other side. So when I do these ones, I tend to do a few times in one direction and then go back, change the other direction. And just keep changing so that, again, it's not being forced. It can feel quite free and easy. We're letting the pelvis move. Good. And then just give a little shake out of everything. And we're going to do a series of forward bends. And to just see how this feels, because it's early on. So the first forward bend we're going to do, so make sure your feet are hip width apart and parallel. The first one we're going to do, you're going to slide your hands down the front of your thighs and pause here with your knees bent, letting your head hang, and just see how that feels. So come to that sort of halfway house with your forward bend. Good. See how that feels in your halfway house forward bend. You're resting your elbows on your thighs. If everything feels okay, then you can carry on going down, sliding your hands all the way down towards your feet. If they reach, you can keep your knees quite bent, have a big exhalation, let your head go. And then we're going to roll back up into standing, sliding our hands up the fronts of our thighs. So let a breath come in. And as you exhale, roll into standing, sliding your hands all the way up the fronts of your legs. And let yourself arrive back in standing. And then we're going to go into a forward bend again. This time, we're going to slide the hands down the backs of the legs as we go forwards, unless you need to come to here, if your lower back needs that support. So see how it feels this time as you go forwards, sliding your hands down the backs of your thighs. And just where do your hands get to? And again, remember, if you need that support of bending your knees and resting your elbows on your thighs, do it. Otherwise, just go all the way down. When you get down in your forward bend, you could then just let your arms be floppy for a moment. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to roll back up again, sliding your hands back up the backs of your legs. All the way back up into standing. Good. And let yourself arrive in standing again. So we're going to do one more forward bend. This time, we're going to bring the hands, interlaced hands around the back of the neck, like this. We're only going to go down like this. We're not going to come back up like this, but it's really nice. Things that you were saying, Hannah, about being stiff in the neck and shoulders. This can feel really nice for the neck. So as you roll forwards, you can really encourage the back of the neck to lengthen out. So gather your elbows in. If your elbows are sticking out to the side, let the elbows gather in a bit more and really feel that you can lengthen out the back of your neck without pulling. And then you're going to release your arms down to the ground. The breath come in as you exhale, roll back up into standing. And just have a little bit of shake out. It's noisy, let me know. Okay, so in standing, let's now swing our arms. So bring your hands into prayer pose in front of you. And we're going to swing our arms. I'm hoping you've all got loads of space in your houses. We're going to swing our arms out to the sides and let them cross in front of us. So again, this is really nice if you're feeling stiff shoulders, stiff arms, swinging the arms in front of you. And then a bit like we did on our back at the beginning, swing your arms into a hug and hug yourself. And I'd like you to have your right arm on top. So if you've got your left arm on top, swap them over. It's just going to make it easier for you. You're not going to have to remember the next thing. What I'd like you to do here is come back to that twist where you're not moving your pelvis. So you're hugging yourself and you're turning a little bit to the right and to the left. And then pause in the middle and bring your arms on into eagle arms. So this one, which I think you all know, eagle arms here. And then take your feet a little bit wider apart. And you're going to come into a forward bend with your arms in eagle. And so bending your knees as much as you like. Use the weight of the arms to help lengthen you out. Good. And whenever you want to uncross your arms, do so and just let your arms flop down to the floor. Let a breath come in as you exhale, sink into your heels, roll back up into standing. And just have a little bit of a shake out before we do the other side. So bring your feet back so they're hip width apart now. And bring your hands back into prayer pose. Let a breath come in and come back to this swinging of your arms side to side. And try to let the arms feel really loose and free. And swing our arms like this. We're going to swing our arms and give ourselves a hug with the left arm on top this time. So swing your arms, that's it. Give yourself a hug, left arm on top. Let your shoulders drop down away from your ears. And again, can you leave your pelvis steady and still? And can you turn your shoulders to the right and to the left? shoulders and ribcage. And then you can pause in the middle. You can bring your arms on into eagle arms. You can step your feet a bit wider apart if you like. I think I like this better with my feet a bit wider. As you go into a forward bend, bend your knees as much as you like. See if the weight of your arms can help lengthen your spine out. Good. Whenever you want to uncross your arms, do so. Let the arms hang and be floppy now. That's it, good. Flop the arms down to the ground. Then let a breath come in, exhaling, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Good. Then just have a little shake out once we're back in standing. I'm just going to check in. Is everyone okay? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, good, good. Okay. No one's being too noisy. We're going to do a sequence now, going down from the back of the mat. So, you know, and doing some different things when we get down onto the floor. So come to the back of your mat, like this, and bring your hands to touch in prayer pose in front of you. You're going to let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Let your shoulders drop here at this point and let a breath come in. And then as you exhale, gather your hands in, roll down into a forward bend. Let yourself arrive in the forward bend. And then from the forward bend, you're going to be walking your hands forwards into dog pose. Just see how your dog pose feels. Remember, you can bend your knees, you can let your heels come off the floor. See how that dog pose feels. And from dog pose, you're going to come down onto hands and knees. Now, Panna, have you still got the sort of wrist issues going on?
A little bit, just on my right wrist, but it's not too bad.
Okay, well just see, because if you find that it gets a bit much on your hands, you could come down onto your forearms, yeah?
Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some cat movements here. So rounding your spine to the ceiling, dipping your spine down to the floor. And seeing how this feels. Just check that you've got your shoulders over your wrists and you've got your hips over your knees. So some cat movements. You can also do some tail wagging. Yeah, so imagining you have a dog's tail or a fish's tail and you're wagging your dog's tail or swishing your fish's tail from side to side. And whenever you want to, from a rounded up cat, rounding your back, you're going to rock your hips back over your heels into child pose for a couple of breaths. So just settle yourself down in child pose and see how that feels. So how does it feel to touch? Might be that you're touching your forehead to the ground. Good. Let your breath come in, let your breath leave you. Now, from child pose, you're going to, what you could do in child pose is just slide your hands forwards a bit so your elbows come off the ground and plant your hands on the floor. Because we're going to come back onto hands and knees. But I want you to be in a longer hands and knees position. So if in child pose, you slide your hands forwards, you end up in this longer hands and knees position. And then you're just going to start this process. You might not be going all the way to face up dog yet. You're just going to see what does it feel like to start to rock your weight forwards. And Panna, just see how this is on the wrist because you don't want to overdo it. So some of you might be very comfortable with this and feel, yes, I'm going to let myself rock all the way forwards to face up dog. But if your lower back feels tight, then don't push it. We've got plenty of time to do this. And then in your own time, maybe bring your hands back in a little bit closer. You're going to come into one more dog pose. So tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back over your heels, coming up into dog pose and having a few breaths in your dog pose. So remember, your knees can be as bent as you like in dog. You can be bending one knee at a time, so you're walking on the spot. You want to feel that you're resting through your arms, and yes, do come down whenever you want to. So from dog pose, come back onto hands and knees. And then this time on hands and knees, tuck your toes under. And then you're going to start to walk your hands back in towards your knees. And can you pick your knees up off the floor so you're on the balls of your feet? And make sure your feet are a little distance apart, hip width apart. You could also lengthen out your toes. So particularly the little toes, if they're getting a bit trapped under their neighbours, you could lengthen them out. And just do a little bit of rocking here, forwards and back. So we give the toes a little bit of a massage. And then from here, we're going to come into a forward bend. So as you exhale, you're sending your heels down to the floor and your bottom up to the ceiling. And then we're going to roll up into standing, touching the backs of your hands together. So as you exhale, roll up into the standing. So I'm touching the backs of my hands in front of me and they keep touching and the arms go straight up towards the ceiling. You then take your hands apart, let your shoulders drop, breathe in, and then exhale in a big circle down to here. So, well done. We're going to go down through another sequence, but I think partway through we're going to be going out to do the applause, but let's make a start anyway, because we've got a few minutes. So, come to here, same thing, hands in prayer pose to start. Let a breath come in. As the breath leaves you, take your arms down and then up. Let a breath come in, drop your shoulders away from your ears, and then curling down into a forward bend. Feel your heels in the ground. And then whenever you're ready, big handprints walking forwards into dog pose. Seeing how that dog pose feels. And then from dog pose once more, coming down onto hands and knees. We're going to revisit cat, we're going to revisit tail wagging. Hannah, I think maybe be on your forearms this time, because we are going to do something else on the hands in a moment. Okay, anyone else who wants to give their wrists a break? So we can round our back, we can dip our spine. We'll do one more thing and then I think it's probably going to be NHS applause time. Maybe just a little bit of tail wagging, imagining you have a tail, wagging your tail to the left and to the right. And then what we're going to do is a plank pose. So think about settling yourself. The shoulders are over your wrists. And you're going to lengthen one leg back behind you and then add the other leg in. And see how it feels to be in plank pose. See how it feels to stay in plank pose. But obviously not staying if it's starting to hurt your wrists. And from that plank pose, if you can still stay there, then stay there, breathing. Whenever you want to come out.
8 o'clock, Kara.
Okay, thank you. Come out. And I'm just going to pause the recording for a moment. We'll go out and do our applause and then we will come back in.
Oh, look, come over here. If you want, they won't see you. They won't see below there. Oh. Hello, Asher. Okay, let's go back upstairs now.
Isn't there? So
Hi, Daisy.
how are we doing? Is everyone returning? Well,
Yeah.
Jan, I think, is up in her loft. I just got to go all the way down. She didn't want to. Anyway, she. So we were back on hands and knees. So maybe you could do a little bit more dog cat while we're waiting for everyone to return, maybe. We're going back onto hands and knees. How are we doing? Is everyone back yet? No. Nearly everyone back.
I'm off through my head all the way down and all the way
So
back.
that's you had quite a long way to go, Jan.
Yeah. Hello. Hey.
So I'm just waiting for everyone to return so we can pick up with this sequence. So we were on hands and knees, and we're doing plank pose. So actually, while you're waiting, you could do another plank pose if you like. We're going to do a plank pose as part of a sequence in a moment. But if you're keen to get moving.
Oh, I'm always keen to do another plank.
Plank pose, yeah, I thought that would be the case.
Plank.
Oh, it's cold out there.
Yeah.
Freezing.
Bare feet.
Sorry?
Especially with bare feet.
Oh, I did grab some slippers. Yes.
Right, I think everyone, it looks to me like everyone's back now, or thereabouts. So what we're going to do as a sequence, let me just remind myself, we were going to, so we're going to do a little sequence, maybe just watch and then you can do it in your own time. So we're going to do a little sequence with lunge, and you can break these down, so you don't have to do them together if it doesn't work for you. So lunge, and then seeing how it feels from lunge to step into plank pose. And then from plank pose into dog. You might walk your feet in a little bit. And then from dog pose, you're going to step the other foot into lunge. But it's fine. If you prefer just to do your lunge from hands to knees and not the plank and the dog, that's absolutely fine. Okay? So the main thing here is the lunge. So starting with 1 foot forwards in lunge, having a few breaths here, thinking about the pelvis being heavy, your back toes can be tucked under or flat, wherever feels more comfortable. And then if you do want to do it as part of a little sequence, it's how can you make this transition from lunge into plank pose. And then when you've had a few breaths in plank pose, it's then coming up into dog pose, and it might be that you want to walk your feet in a little bit and have a few breaths in dog pose. And if you're not doing dog and plank, it's on hands and knees, swapping into the other side of lunge. Or if you're in dog pose, bring your other foot forwards into lunge. So you can either do that from dog or from hands and knees. And just remember, try to feel when you're in your lunge that your knee is over your heel, so that you can be giving the weight of the knee down through the heel. It doesn't matter so much if your knee's further forwards over your foot, That's okay, as long as your heel's down. What you don't want is your knee further back than your heel. And after this second lunge as well, if you would like to from here, we can then step all the way just back into dog pose. So you can plant your hands down, exhale, step back into dog pose. Have a little lengthen out. And then from dog pose, whenever you're ready, folding back down into child pose. And just have a couple of breaths in child pose, feeling the ground beneath you. And then in child pose, just shifting your weight forwards onto your forearms so that you can tuck your toes under. And then starting to walk your hands in towards you, in towards your knees, obviously letting your head come up, letting your knees come up. So you're back onto the balls of your feet like we were in the other cycle of the sequence. And you can do a little bit of rocking here. So again, I was lengthening out my toes, particularly my little toes. You can do a little bit more rocking here, use your fingertips on the floor for support. And then from here, as you exhale, sending your heels down and your sit bones up. Bringing the backs of your hands to touch, and on an out breath, rolling up into standing, keeping the backs of your hands touching as you bring the hands all the way up the front of your body to the ceiling. Take your arms wide, drop your shoulders, and then bring your arms out in a big circle by your sides, all the way back down into prayer pose. Good. So we're going to do one more cycle of this sequence, but again with different things when we get onto the floor. So hands in prayer pose, let a breath come in. As the breath leaves you, take the arms down and then up. Let the breath come in, exhaling, rolling down into your forward bend. Couple of breaths in your forward bend and then walking your hands forwards into dog pose. And from dog pose once more, we will be coming back onto your hands and knees. Are you okay there, Sam?
Yeah, simply back in business.
Good.
Did I miss plank pose?
You missed plank pose, well done. So look, when we come onto hands and knees, you could watch for a moment if you want to. We're going to be in this longer hands and knees, tucking our toes under, rounding our back to the ceiling, rocking our hips back over our heels, and then travelling forwards with our backs rounded all the way into the face up dog. And we're going to reverse that. So tucking your toes under, rounding your back, rocking back. And then again, the same thing, travelling forwards with your back rounded, looking at your pelvis, and then untucking the toes, bringing your gaze forward. So seeing how that feels now. Maybe going forwards and back 3 times, if that feels okay. So make sure you've got enough length between your knees and your hands, yeah? So you need to have your hands further forwards than you would do if you were doing cat pose. So Panu, I don't know whether, yeah, you might want to have your hands a little bit further forwards. And then as you travel forwards, you're rounding your back, you're looking at your pelvis, and you're just letting the pelvis hang. Eventually the pelvis comes to hang off the end of the spine. And if you've got your hands in the most helpful place, your wrists are going to end up under your shoulders. So you might need to adjust it if they're not quite in the right place. When you've done this 3 times, rock back into child pose with your feet flat on the floor and just let yourself have a little breather. Rest your forehead on the floor. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Very nice face up dogs. That looks very nice, Panu, well done. Untuck your toes at that point once you're in.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That, untuck your toes, and then really that's it. Slide the shoulders down away from the ears. Very nice. Have a couple of breaths in child pose, because we're going to do another version of face up dog in a moment, or another way into it. And yeah, just give yourself a little breather. Oh, and Casper the cat has decided to join us now. Come on, go away. We all quite often makes an appearance on Thursday evenings, doesn't it? If Gemma hasn't been told to take you away. Now, look, again, you could watch. You're going to, again, have this longer distance between your knees and your hands. And this time, you're going to do your tail wagging. So by swinging your pelvis side to side, you're going to move back into child, and you're going to propel yourself forwards into face up dog, but using this side to side motion of the pelvis. And just see how this feels. So this can be a really nice way to sneak ourselves into face up dog. So see how that feels. And again, it's really that's it. It's that sort of snaking side to side movement of the pelvis. Does that make sense, Panna? Because I think,
yeah, I think so.
You probably won't have done that one. And again, make sure you've got that longer distance between your knees and your hands. That's it, that's nice. So, I mean, and someone asked me, I think in a class the other day, about how should I be moving on my pelvis? And I think you can play around with this one. It's a bit experimental. And as long as what you're doing feels comfortable, that's fine. There's no right or wrong about it. The wrong would be is if you're doing something that doesn't feel nice. And you can carry on with that a bit, but whenever you want to, it might then be nice to come into a dog pose and just see how that feels in contrast to the face up dog. So this is what's known as down dog, isn't it? Where the head is hanging. And just see how that dog pose feels after the face up dog. Good, very nice. And let's just one more time, because we're going to come back into standing in a moment. One more time, when you come out of your dog pose, just fold down into child pose and see how restful you can be in child. So can you, in your child pose, let the forehead touch the ground? Can you let your shoulders soften and undo? Feel as spacious as possible. Can you let your pelvis feel heavy? You might like to wiggle your pelvis a little bit from side to side. That can feel nice. And just have a couple more breaths in child pose. So I think for many of us at the moment, there's that sort of, feeling we have these quiet moments and maybe a bit too far and few between. So just taking them when we can in yoga. It's really important. And then again, you're going to, like we did last time, from child pose, you're going to shift your weight forwards onto your forearms so that you can tuck your toes under, and then walk your hands in towards your knees. Let your knees come off the floor, come up onto the balls of your feet, lengthening your toes out. Do a little bit of rocking here on the balls of your feet. And then from here, whenever you're ready, start to send your heels down to the floor and your sit bones up to the ceiling. And then touch the backs of your hands together as you exhale, rolling up into standing, taking your arms all the way up to the ceiling, dropping your shoulders, breathing in, exhaling, arms down into round, through a big circle, back into prayer pose. Good. And have a little bit of a shake out. So now come towards the middle of your mats, and we're going to do a few things in standing now. So what I'd like you to do is start with your feet hip width apart, and then you're going to step 1 foot forward. So let's say the right foot, just so we don't get terribly confused. So step your right foot forwards, And we're going to be rocking forwards and back, like this. Just a little bit of rocking forwards and back. Feel our weight in our front foot, feel our weight in our back foot. And I'd like you to settle here and maybe just watch me for a moment. So see if you can settle here and feel steady and just watch me. Some of you will be really familiar. What we're going to do is bend the front knee. Come here, let the spine lengthen out, and we're going to be turning away from the front leg. We can let this arm hang, it might come to rest, the ankle or the floor, and maybe we take this arm up, okay? So from this place where you've got your right foot stepped forwards, then bend your right knee, keep your left leg straight, come to rest forwards, either your hands or your forearm on your right thigh. And here, see if you can feel that your spine is lengthening out, sort of long and straight, particularly in the upper back. And then bring your left hand onto the back of your pelvis. And we're starting to turn, but again, it's just the shoulders and the ribs that are turning towards the left, away from your front leg. You could then release your right arm towards the floor. You might want to have your fingers on your ankle, you might have your fingers on the floor, possibly. And you might take your left arm up towards the ceiling. All the time you're trying to breathe. Feel that you're long through the top side of your body. Very nice. Well done, everyone. And then untwist and let yourself flop forwards over that front leg, over that bent right knee. And then sink into your heels, come back up into standing. And step your right foot back next to your left foot. So we're going to do the other side now. So you're going to step your left foot forwards. I'm going to do the same thing. I will tell you to do the other side. So you've got your left foot stepped forwards. You've got both feet pointing forwards as if you were going to go for a walk. You're bending your front knee, your left knee. You're coming to rest down with your hands or your forearm on that bent left thigh. Your right hand is coming onto the back of your pelvis. Your pelvis is staying put. And then you're starting to turn towards the right with your shoulders and your ribs. So you're turning away from that front bent left leg. And then release your left arm towards the ground. You might have your fingers on your ankle or the floor, or it could just hang. And then the right arm can reach up towards the ceiling. See how that feels. Can you breathe there? Can you release tension? Looks very, very nice, everyone. And then whenever, have a few breaths there. Make sure the back leg is straight, the front knee's bent. Then untwist, that's it, Hannah, good. Untwist and flop forwards over your bent front leg thigh. And then on an exhalation, sink into your heels, come back up into standing.
Cara,
Yes.
can I ask, when you're doing that, say you're on whatever knee you're on, is your shoulder always above the knee? I mean, sorry, is your knee always 90 degrees to the ground? Because I felt my knee pulls back.
Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily.
No, okay.
It's just bent. The front knee's bent. It's not necessarily 90 degrees though. So
yeah. Oh, okay.
It's just bent. It's not necessary. No. I think it gets a bit mathematical actually, Jude. So I'm not quite sure what 90 degrees is, but it's just more.
Well, just your knee is over your ankle. So what I meant was your knee is over your ankle, so that's straight, like that.
I don't think it has to be that precise, as long as it's comfortable. Yeah, the front knee is bent. It doesn't have to be immediately over the ankle. For some people, it might be further forwards over the foot. We're going to come back, and you can think about it a bit more in a different pose now. We're going to use the same foot position, but to take us somewhere different. So come back to having your feet side by side. And then again, step your right foot forwards. And this time, I want you to shift your weight forwards and back by bending one knee and bending the other. So your feet are now not moving off the ground. And so in this one, Jude, I think you would, I don't think your knee would just stay over your heel and your ankle. The knee would go forwards over the foot, as long as it feels comfortable. And then end up in that same position where your front knee is bent and your back leg is straight. And you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose at your chest. And then your thumbs come to rest on your breastbone. Now, watch me for a moment. We're going to do this in a couple of stages. The first thing we're going to do from here is see how it feels to come and balance on a bent knee and the back leg is long. And then from here, you can start to straighten both knees, both the standing knee and the back leg. And just see how that feels. Good. Very nice. So there's just that little bit of experimenting of how does it feel to start with a bent knee, both knees bent, but then we start to let both knees straighten but not lock. The backs of the knees open. We let ourselves tilt forwards a bit. We try to breathe. We try to balance. All these things are intentions. The reality might not be quite the same. Come down and have a little shake out. We'll try the other side, and then we're going to try a slightly different way into it in a moment. So try the same thing on the other side. So come back to feet being side to side, and this time step your left foot forwards. And then again, do this little preparation where you've got both feet stuck on the floor and you're bending one knee and bending the other. And actually, Jude, I think this one gives you a good sense of actually how can your knee bend and what's the relationship to the ankle. And it depends a lot on the length and the back of the ankle, to be honest. So it depends how easy or difficult squatting is for you. That is really what's going to determine where your knee is in relationship to your ankle. So end up, so you've got your front knee bent and your back leg straight. And bring both hands into prayer pose at your chest. And then from here, come up and balance on a bent front leg and your back knee's bent. You just see what's it like to bounce up and down a bit. You let the standing knee straighten a bit and then bend a bit. And then just little by little, what's it like to start to let both knees become a bit straighter as you reach back with your back heel and you maybe tip forwards a little bit more with your torso. See how you're all doing. Very nice. Well done. Oh. Yes. Come and have. We're going to have a little shake out because we're going to do a slightly different version of a different way into that that pose we just did. Cam is standing behind me. This is his way into it, so he should really be demonstrating this. What you're going to do is you're going to start with your fingertips on your breastbone and then just watch me. And it's up to you really whether you want to start with your front knee. I like to start with it a little bit bent. As you start to go forwards this time, I want you to take your arms out to the sides really wide. And they could stay there, or you could also reach forwards with your arms. Okay? So, step your right foot forwards again.
Carol, are we keeping hips level here as much as possible?
As much as possible. I probably did a very poor job of it, but as much as possible, yes.
No, not at all. I'm just.
No, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did. So yes, so as you spread your arms, that's what Cam's just reminded me, that's what helps to counterbalance the raising of your legs. So again, just it's up to you whether you start with your front knee bent or straight. I think maybe a little bit bent. As you start to lift your back leg, reach out to the sides with your arms. and that helps you to lift that back leg maybe a little bit higher. And then you might want to stay there with your arms reaching out to the sides, or from there you can then bring your arms forward so they're either side of your head. And they sometimes feel a bit lighter coming into it from this way. The other great thing is you've got space at home to do this, which we wouldn't have in my house for everyone to have your arms out by your sides. Well done. Very nice.
Kara, how do you, when I'm doing that, if I'm standing
Yes.
on my right leg and, okay,
Yeah.
the left leg I'm trying to raise, how do I stop it pivoting round? Because that throws you off balance.
Oh, well, the leg is pivoting round because your pelvis is tilting.
Yeah, how do I stop my pelvis tilting? It's almost like it's a way of trying to get my balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to just try keep focusing on the leg lifting up and not allowing it to pivot. I think having that awareness that it's doing that is the first stage. But I think then trying to maybe slow down and stop as soon as you notice. So try on the other side.
Yeah,
and
okay.
it's quite different one side to the other. So have this starting point again. You've got your fingertips on your breastbone. You've got your front knee, or I would say bent, but you could have your front leg straight. And then just starting to shift your weight into that front leg. The back leg comes up as you take your arms out to the side. Another thing that you could think about is really stretching into your back heel. So if you send your back heel away from you, that for me stops the pivoting. Yeah. So
Of the leg that's going out.
the raised leg, if I'm
Of the raised
stretching
leg.
into my heel, yeah, if my leg's a bit sort of floppy and not really doing anything, it's more likely to wander. If I'm really stretching my heel away from me, then that's another thing that might help. So yes, remember you've got those two options. You've got the options of the arms coming out to the side, which can really help with the balance. And then you can also from there, do a very poor job of it, take your arms by the sides of your head. Have we had enough? Have we had enough warriors? The heel, okay, that helped, did it? Good, okay, brilliant. So look, after all that warrior three, what we might need is a bit of a squat for our lower back. We're going to do that in just a moment. Before we come down through a forward bend into the squat. So if you need a book for your squat, like I said, have one to hand or a yoga block. But first of all, just come to settle in standing. So look at your feet, and then close your eyes, drop your awareness down into your feet, feel your feet on the floor. A little bit of swaying. Let the weight of your body shift from side to side. And from swaying, can you then let yourself settle in standing? So your arms are hanging, your shoulders are dropping, and you're just letting your weight drop down as evenly as possibly through your right leg and through your left leg. And just how does it feel to be in standing? You could bring one hand onto your chest, one hand onto your belly, and use this contact of your hands on your body to help you just really feel yourself in standing. You might feel your body responding to your breathing under your hands, in the chest, in the belly, or in both, or neither. So in your own time, we're going to be coming into a forward bend. And from that forward bend, we're going to make our way down through a squat. And so it'd be nice to stay in the squat a little bit. So if you need a block under your heels or a book, have that to your side. It's really nice for the lower back. So forward bend. And then from our forward bend, trying to keep the knees As we come down into our squat, try to keep the feet steady, the knees moving straight forwards over the feet. And at some point, you may need to slide your block down under your heels to be able to stay in your squat. And so this, you know, the squat is a great place. I feel a bit mean showing you a yoga wedge that you can't use, but staying in your squat's a great place for your lower back. It might be that you like doing this. So it might be that you want to bring your knees apart and fold your body down in between your knees. Yeah, and so that might give you more lengthening through your lower back. It might feel too much, so don't do it if that's the case. And from squatting, have a few more, if it's feeling nice in the back, have a few more breaths here. It's that feeling that the pelvis is hanging off the end of the spine. And then from our squat, we're going to sit down into cobbler pose. It might be that you want to take your weight back onto your hands and lean back and just see how cobbler pose feels today. Is everyone okay? Are we still there? So I feel like I'm wearing some glasses. Still here. Okay, good. Please hear it. So we're going to do a little bit of a sequence here for our hips. Some pretty familiar things for most of you. First of all, in cobbler pose, why don't you see what's it like to do a little bit of rocking from side to side? So you could be holding your ankles or your feet and rocking your weight from one sit bone onto the other. So hopefully you've got quite. So Kayla, this is where your carpet would be good. So I'm not sure Kayla's there. So yes, if you've got some good padding underneath you here, then it won't feel too bony. So that's rocking from one sit bone to the other. Now you could do a little bit of leaning from one side to the other. Yeah. So if you lean from one side to the other, you're then lengthening out through one side of your body and then the other. Yeah. So it's a slightly different feeling. Okay, let's from cobbler pose, let's come into pinwheel. So take your right knee and bring it over on top of your left knee. And then slide your right leg back. And then we're in our familiar pinwheel place. We can do a little bit of circling here. In a moment, we're going to come into a forward bend. We're going to turn towards the left thigh. We're going to fold over the left thigh. And we're going to do a couple of buzzing breaths when we're down in this forward bend. So fold down, move your left thigh. I'm just going to come forwards and have a look at people. Hannah, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? So in this forward bend, be as comfortable as possible. This is hopefully a restful place. You're going to let a breath come in. This is why I didn't mute everyone. And have another buzzing breath. So let the breath come in. And then slowly walking your hands in towards you. So coming up a little bit in pinwheel. Because what we're going to do from here is with your left knee, we're going to take that left knee back a little bit. And then you're going to lengthen out the right leg and let your pelvis roll round. So you come into pigeon pose. All right there. Yep, sorry. Someone yelling at the prospect of pigeon pose. Prospect of pigeon pose. Are we all right there? Good. That looks nice. Yeah. So coming into pigeon pose. If anyone's knee is feeling too much pressure, then you can be a bit lopsided in pigeon. So have the weight coming down through the left side of the pelvis, the sort of around the left hip joint. And then in pigeon pose, you can do a bit of rocking. So you could tuck your back toes under and rock yourself a little bit, I say up and down, sort of along the length, forwards and back along the length of your mat. So that's what I like. You could leave your foot flat on the floor and you could just rock sideways a little bit if that feels comfortable. You've got these options in pigeon pose, so you can be on your elbows. That's quite a good starting point. You can go a bit lower with your head. You can also see what it feels like to come onto your hands a little bit more. All of these different positions is going to make it, it's going to change how it feels around your pelvis. And what we're really thinking about here is releasing tension around the pelvis. So it's really up to you about what is most. Now, from pigeon, I always thought, my heart always thinks I was like, do this or that. From pigeon, we're going to be swinging this back leg around into cow legs. It might be that you need your block to sit on. So let your weight rock over onto the left thigh and then swing the right leg around. So we're coming into cow legs, and I'm just going to then come. Yes. Even though we're in lockdown, you don't get to escape cow. You get to escape cow legs. You could be here. You could. So you've got a couple of options. If you're here and you've brought your foot all the way over, so your right foot has come over your left thigh. Check what your sit bones are doing. So if your right sit bone is right off the floor, you might need to sit on your book or your block, or you might need to bring your foot back to this side, yeah? And then let your foot stand on the floor. If your foot is over to the left side, you can have the ankle on the floor, side of the foot on the floor. And we're going to turn towards the top leg. So as you exhale, so you're turning towards the right. Because I know we always get confused about this in class. So turn towards the right, and that should be your top leg. Unless things have gone really badly wrong. Have a few breaths. So at any point, if it gets too much, come out, please, please, please. Have a few breaths there. You can come back to the center. You can have a bit of a wiggle. If you've had enough, uncross your legs, come out. If you're quite happy in cow and you want to fold forwards a little bit, that's a possibility. If you're thinking, oh my goodness, that's plenty of cow legs, lean back onto your hands, uncross your legs, give your legs a little bit of a roll and a lengthen out. Now we will come out of cow legs. Okay, and then take your legs, let's just briefly take them wide. We'll do a bit more of this after we've done the other side. So see what it's like to take your legs wide, long and wide. And you can be leaning back onto your hands. Some of you I know rather like this. Sam, you're the one who would like to like it better, aren't you?
Yes.
We were talking about this before, weren't we? So some of you might feel that you like to have your hands in front of you and be folding forwards. We'll have a bit more time to do that in a moment. So from here, let's bring the hands back again behind us and come back into cobbler pose. Good. And just maybe see, how does it feel just to sit in cobbler pose? You could be holding your big toes or holding your ankles. How does it feel just to sit upright? It's not always the easiest place to sit upright in cobbler pose. Hi, Kayla, you've returned, have you? See. And then cobbler pose, your left knee come on top of your right knee. Slide the left leg back. So you're in wheel. And you're doing a bit of circle. Good. Yes, Kayla, welcome back. I think we lost you for a little bit, didn't we? And then in pinwheel, you're going to turn towards your right leg. So you're lining up your body with your right thigh. We're going to fold forwards over that right thigh. We're going to do a couple of buzzing breaths. We're folding forwards over your right thigh, letting the breath come in. And again, let the breath come in. So one more time. And walking your hands back in. And so remember, we're going to be going on to pigeon now. So with your, you want to let your right knee come back a little bit more. And then start to lengthen out your left leg and let your pelvis roll around. So ideally, we're coming to end up with our pelvis being level, but it might be, if there's any discomfort in your right knee, that you have your pelvis a bit offside. You let your pelvis tilt over towards the right to take the pressure off the right knee. And then any of these little rocking things again in pigeon. So back toe tucked under, rocking up and down along the length of your mat, back toe flat, a little bit of wiggling your pelvis, rocking side to side. And again, you can experiment. I'm going to have a look at you. Experiment with where you are. Are you on your elbows? Are you on your, are you lower than that? Yeah, you've got all these different options in pigeon. As I said on the other side, wherever you have your hands, how high or low you are, is going to affect how it feels around the pelvis. See if you can find a place where it feels for you that you're undoing tension. Maybe have a couple of big exhalations. And then, of course, it's just going to get better in a moment, isn't it? Because we're coming into lovely cow legs. So from here, let your weight rock onto the right side of your pelvis, onto your right hip joint, and you're going to swing your left leg all the way round. See where it gets to, crossing your legs into cow legs. Now, you've always got this choice. If for any reason your bottom knee isn't happy, you can always lengthen out your bottom leg. Yeah, so that's another option. And remember again, you want to feel both sit bones are on the floor. So ideally in cow legs, when your leg has come over, so this left foot's come over to the right, you're on the sort of ankle. If you're keeping your left leg on the left, your foot can stand on the floor. And then let's turn towards the top leg, the left leg, as you exhale. Turning towards the left. Hello, Casper. Let your shoulders drop. Have a couple of breaths here. And then in your own time, if you want to come back to the center, if you want to fold forwards a little bit, if you still want to stay in cow legs, you can do. If you're desperate to get out, uncross your legs. Give them a little bit of a shake out. So just finally to finish in sitting, I'm going to give you a little choice. You can either come and have a few breaths, maybe half a dozen or so breaths with your legs long and wide. You could be back leaning on your arms, you could have your hands in front of you, or you could come into cobbler pose. And if you do the cobbler pose version, where your feet are a bit further forwards, then you can make it into a forward bend as well. It's a bit easier to fold forwards and have a few breaths here. So just choose whichever one you'd like to be in. I'm going to come a little bit nearer so I can see you. Oh. I'm just, yeah, I'm going to start. So I'm going to mute everyone actually now, because we're getting to sort of the quieter part of class. So I think it would be good. Do wave at me if you need to speak to me. You can wave at me anyway. So just, yeah, having a few breaths in your forward bend of your choice. And in the forward bend, it's really about trying to feel that you're giving the weight of your legs and pelvis to the floor. And then it's being patient and feeling the breath, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you, and just not being in too much of a rush. This sense maybe that we have all the time in the world to let the legs and the pelvis settle into the ground. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. So if you're happy in your forward bend and you wanted a couple more breaths, then stay there. But what we're going to be doing from here is making our way to lying down. We're going to do some little movements on our backs, and then we're going to lie down for a bit of relaxation. We're going to finish sitting and chanting Om 3 times. So yes, so if you want to now, lie down onto your backs, maybe have your blanket just to hand, because we're going to do a few movements before, yeah, socks on, jumpers on, Emma putting your loads and loads of layers on. So, Kayla, yeah, big jumper on. And then lying down onto your backs. And when you arrive on your back, just take a moment to see, how does it feel? How does it feel to be lying down? And notice what you're doing. Notice what position you've chosen to lie in. And maybe the first thing to do when you're there is to start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And easing your head. Keep it easy. Keep it comfortable. Let the head roll a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. And then finding a comfortable place where the head can settle down and rest on the floor. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And in your own time, if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. And have your feet a generous hip width apart. And then you're going to start to, like we did at the beginning of class, let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And see how that feels. And keep this movement easy. So it's not about going as far as you possibly can. It's about finding a movement that feels enjoyable in your body right now. So can you find a rhythmic movement, your knees tilting to the right and to the left? Feel how the weight shifts side to side across the back of your pelvis. And then pause in the center. Keep your knees bent. And now can you come to tilt your pelvis on the floor? So can you tip your pelvis a little bit towards your head and then a little bit away from your head? So when you tip your pelvis away from your head, your lower back arches off the floor a little bit. And when you tip your pelvis towards your head, the curve of your lower back flattens out a bit more and your tailbone tips off the ground. So just see, can you find this movement of tilting the pelvis away from your head, tilting the pelvis towards your head. Very nice. Do that a couple more times and then just let the pelvis settle for a moment in neutral. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then one more movement. Take your feet a bit wider apart, so they're as wide as your mat. And then start to let your knees tilt again to the right and to the left, but now with your feet wider, and see how this feels. And it might be that you'd like to let your head either move in the same direction as your knees or the opposite direction to your knees. So just see what you'd like to do. If it's comfortable for you, you could let your knees rock all the way down towards the floor and stay there for 2 or 3 breaths. So it's up to you. You can either keep on sort of just rocking from side to side, or you can take your knees down towards the floor, let them stay there. And obviously do the same thing on the other side. So when you've had a few breaths with your knees on one side, then take your knees down to the other side, have a few breaths there. And then let the knees come back to the center and fold your knees into your chest and hold around your knees with your arms and do a little bit of rocking side to side across the back of your pelvis. Good. So any little movements you like here, rocking side to side, circling around the back of your pelvis, whatever feels good. And then finally, we're going to settle down now. So you can now lie either with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, or you can lengthen your legs out. And so this will be a good time, if you have got a blanket, to put your blanket over you to make sure you're going to be warm and comfortable. Good. And let's just one last time come back to that movement of rolling your head a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And from rolling your head side to side, find a comfortable place where you can let the head settle down and come to rest. Feeling that the center of the back of your head is on the floor. And then once more, bring your hands to rest on your low ribs, like we did at the very beginning of class. And bring your attention to the sensations of your breathing in this part of your body. So with your hands resting on your low ribs. Seeing what you feel as you breathe in, seeing what you feel as you breathe out. Probably as you breathe in, there's the feeling of those ribs expanding. As you exhale, the feeling of those ribs narrowing. And just allow yourself to rest there for a few cycles of breath, gathering your attention into the movement of the breath in the low ribs. You might also feel, if your hands are at the low ribs, they might also be some of your fingers on your belly, so you might be feeling some of the movement of the breath in your belly. And then it's up to you for the last couple, 2 or 3 minutes. You can keep your hands there, you can move them lower onto your belly, you could rest your arms down by your sides. So come now to sensing the contact of the back of your body on the floor. So feeling the weight of your head on the floor. Noticing how the backs of your shoulders rest down on the floor. How does the right shoulder rest? How does the left shoulder rest? Taking your awareness down into the back of your rib cage. How does the back of the rib cage rest on the floor? And also the vertebrae, noticing which vertebrae you can feel contacting the ground. And then down to the back of the pelvis. How does the pelvis rest on the floor? The right side of the pelvis, the left side of the pelvis. And then the legs. So noticing how your legs rest. It may be that your knees are bent and you have your feet, the soles of your feet on the floor. It may be that your legs are long and you feel parts of the back of the legs in contact with the floor, all the way down to the back of the heels. And then noticing what else do you sense as the breath, as the body in contact with the ground. What else can you sense? Maybe it's the skin, maybe the air on your skin. Are there any other bodily sensations you notice? Maybe thoughts, feelings. What else is present for you right now? It's noticing, feeling, being. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. At the end of the 3rd sound, you're going to make your way around into sitting, and we're going to chant Om 3 times together, and I will unmute you at that point. So listen for the 3 sounds of the singing bowl. So you should all be unmuted now. Yes, that's good. So yeah, I'd sort of had the little thought with these classes that it's really nice to finish all chanting Om together, even though it's slightly strange in your own home. But I think, you know, Om is this sound about the interconnectedness of all life. So it seems really important. Gosh. Where the noise is. But, anyway, so yes, you could bring your hands to your heart and we'll chant Om 3 times together. So let a breath come in. Thank you, everyone. Otto's just come to. He likes the ohms. So thank you, everyone. It's very good to see you,
Sarah.
and
Amazing.
lovely to see you. So is that Isabella there?
Thanks.
Is that you there? Oh, no, that's Jude. So we seem to have lost. Oh, Isabella, yes, you're there. Okay, I can see. Thank you, everyone. And
Thanks, everybody.
did that sort of work all right sound-wise and stuff? I hope it was it too noisy when I didn't have you muted? What does people think?
It's only a little bit. It was fine. I could hear you.
You could hear me, okay? Because I mean, I think at some point, if it does get too noisy, just say, and I can mute everyone. But it's quite nice to be able to sort of chat a little bit as well, I think. So,
Yeah.
Given there aren't that many opportunities for it at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Social's good.
Are you taking Easter holidays, Kara, or is the class next week?
Oh, yes. No, I'm not going to have a break for the holidays. So basically, the class you missed last week, that will be, that's covered in for next week. And then I'm going to sort of carry it just on a rolling basis, and I'm making it a bit cheaper and various things like that. So I will send you out about, information about that. But I thought there's not really holidays, are there? And so,
No.
we will just carry on, basically.
Next
Oh,
week.
that's good news.
Yeah, that's it. That'd be really nice.
To do it.
Yeah.
So yes, but anyway, next week, all of you who had sort of regularly come to this class, you've already paid for it because of last week. So then I will.
I haven't paid. I need to pay you, so I'll sort that out with you.
I'll sort it out with you, Kara, as well, by email.
That's fine. It's the least important thing.
Okay.
Anyway, look, everyone, take care.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everyone.
So,
Yes, and if you ever want to join any
Well.
of the morning classes, just let me know as well. So if you want to do any extra ones, just let me know.
Thank you. That's great.
thank you. Brilliant.
Bye all.
Thanks, Kara. Bye. Bye.
Bye. I'll never see where to turn this off.
End this meeting. And